One core commitment that I have as a person who has no religious affiliation is that I still nevertheless worry about the dehumanizing potential of artificial intelligence and robotics. And so my little example about the kids, being mean to Alexa, you worry about a world in which people are no longer foregrounded. People are no longer the arbiter, and that folks are getting the social needs that they have met and the cultural needs they have met and other kind of needs from machines. And so I worry very much about the potential for dehumanizing effects of technology in the short run. In the long run, I worry about decentering people by imagining that artificial intelligence will let us live forever. Because again, I don't know how many Good Place fans there are here, and I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but a common theme among sort of more secular humanists is that one of the problems of many religions is the centrality of immortality. And the concern is that a belief that you're going to live forever in an unchanging, perfect state tends to make your current life and your current time less meaningful. And I think that could be true both of an immortality that was occasioned by a deity, and it could also be true about an immortality that was occasioned by technology, right? So in the short run, I think my concerns align very closely with people of faith, as I understand from listening what people believe about that, about the dehumanizing effect and the way that it's decentering people. But in the long run, it's almost like my concerns are also concerns I have about religion. And I'm being a little vulnerable here. I understand that I'm probably among a lot of people who believe very deeply and appropriately so in their faith. But those are the kinds of concerns I have. I don't know if either of you want to respond to that as.
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense in that regard. I think that I would say, I'm a Christian, but even as a Christian, I can see a lot of religion, even a lot of Christian religion, that can have a very corrupting influence. And so I think that's kind of what you're speaking to. And we were talking about how you're concerned about like how we steward the planet. Mm-hmm. And like if you're going to have a perfect existence in the future, what do you even do about care? Why do you care about it now? And you're talking about a dehumanizing impact, that the possibility that AI could give an immortal life, but that means you're concerned about the dehumanizing impact of a belief in an afterlife from a religious point of view could have, right? Yeah, and I think that's one side of it, which that if that's all you had, if that's how you define religion, and if that's the primary way in which you relate with your religion, yeah, it is dehumanizing. I just don't think that that's the whole story for what it is and how actually what it really means to be a follower of who Jesus is. And one of the weird things about who Jesus is that he actually enters into this world and cares about this world at this moment and cares about it. And we're asked to follow him. And yeah, so there is an afterlife, but what's actually so interesting about the afterlife that he talks about, and also as you read the whole story of Scripture, is that afterlife is supposed to be here on this earth. It's not in a different place. And so it's not like you screw things up here and you just kind of get a ticket out. There's this idea of like, well, actually, this is the world that he wants to see turned into heaven. And that is actually worth him coming and seeing so much dignity and value in it that even though it's broken, it's worth engaging. Now, not every Christian approaches things that way, but I didn't say Christians were always compelling. I said Jesus is. And can you at least agree with me that Jesus is greater than Christians? Can I get an amen on that? And so, look, so I get it. So I get what you're saying on that. And I think actually that's actually one of the things that's really, that's really true, but there's also another side of it, because I think one of the things that we see when we look at this world is we see at times so much suffering and shortened life that really shouldn't be that way. And that is in itself dehumanizing. And if all we had is this life, that can be dehumanizing too. And so I do think that there's a little bit of a paradox. I think that there's something that even if this world gives us a horribly unfair shake, there's still a way that things can be set right. And that is humanizing. That's also what's allowed people to go willingly and enter situations that are very self-sacrificing to do greater good. That's one thing, one component of it at least. But I agree to think that that means that that's the only thing that matters is to completely neglect the truth of where we are. So I think that transhumanist is there. Does that make some sense?
Well, if I may, I just want to ask both of you in the audience if you can give feedback about this. Are religious, and again, I'm recognizing both the limits of my understanding and the fact that religious people is hardly some monolithic thing that shares attributes. It's incredibly heterogeneous, right? But people who believe in an afterlife of a certain kind, do you find it disturbing, this idea that there's a bunch of people who think they want to upload their brain and live forever that way? I mean, you see what I mean? It's just like, is it going to be like... Disturbing? Yeah, do you find it disturbing? I mean, it's just like sort of, the idea would be like, there's a door to the right, and the door to the right leads to like, a religious afterlife with your soul, transcending. And then on the left, it's like, it's just your brain, and it gets uploaded, and those are just, it's up to you, which of the two, you know what I mean? I find that a little bit... disturbing.
Which part sounds disturbing?
Well, it feels. First of all, it feels so faithless. It feels so denying of faith to say that people have to take this whole immortality thing into our own hands. Do you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, we've been believing this thing about being immortal because, God said.
Oh, you're saying that that's the whole. Yeah, so I would say,
there a conflict there, right? I mean, I'm genuinely very, very curious.
Well, there's been a lot of Christians writing about this thing called transhumanism and the singularity, and that's exactly the negative view they take of it.
Okay.
I take a little bit of a different view. So I'm probably a bit more of I'm a friendly guy, right? I like to see the good things. So I kind of see that and say, wow, it's just so clearly a crazy thing to want to do. Like, just think about it. Like, let's say we can download our brain into a digital thing. And so these people are even thinking about like doing destructive stuff where they like slice their brains in tiny pieces and put it in. Now, that might be a good copy of my brain, but is that making that copy of my brain worth actually destroying my brain? That sounds crazy. Okay, so that's the first thing.
If they use that technique, but if they use a technique that left your brain just fine, but made like a weird copy of it that could persist forever.
Yeah, but now actually this whole thing is in science fiction. I said now, we're already in science fiction. but then, I think so it is like this, it is like a religious belief. Because it's not grounded in reality. It's not even clear why this makes sense. But it's just so, what I find so interesting about it is it's not actually really logical, but it's speaking to something like, what is it about us as humans that make us think about that? And I think that's really valuable to understand.
I think we'd like to have continued experiences, right? Like, we have kind of an interest in the continuation of our experiences, provided they're like marginally good.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't want just any old experience.
You don't want just any old experience, yeah.
Well, what I think is interesting about it, okay, so here's the thing. So these are mainly atheists that are wondered this way, mainly. Not always, but there are a lot, or nuns. Nuns is the right way to put it, or non-religious. But here's the thing, like that.
I thought you said nuns.
You said nuns, too.
I don't think nuns want to sorry, yeah.
Nuns means they're not any individual religion.
Got it, yeah. Okay.
Nuns, not, you thought I meant N-U-Ns.
That didn't make a lot of sense, yeah.
N-O-N-Es. All right, cool. All right, so they're the knowns, but anyways.
Non-theist, we can say that.
Yeah, now I lost my point. But what's interesting about it is that the one thing that seems like everyone should really understand is the inevitability of death. That somehow we have this impulse to want more than that. It's weird to think that that would happen. Like, why is it that we have this impulse, even if we're not religious, to desire something that may not even be good? It doesn't be sensible. I think that that's a really interesting puzzle. And like the historical Christian answer is that God put eternity on our hearts. that he actually made us for that purpose. And so we have a craving for something, we have a longing for something that we've never experienced yet, and actually don't even have a good account for that it could be possible. And that's actually a clue. It's like a signpost that there actually might be something there. And that's even like an account for why there are other religions and things like that.